Hey, this is Lou Mangello from WDW Radio, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Let's do this.
The tangents this week continue all the way to episode 257 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. And no, this week's topic really we could not give any sort of introduction that would be sufficient. Instead, I'm going to steal words from Steven Spielberg. Without John Williams, bikes don't really fly, nor do brooms in Quidditch matches, nor do men in red capes. There is no force. Dinosaurs do not walk the earth. We do not wonder. We do not weep. We do not believe. John, you take our films, many of them with our most impossible dreams, and you make them real for billions of people. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we do with a virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany in Bethlehem.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Sally from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Hoff. I know I've used that joke before, but in this case, it's true.
It never ceases to be relevant, especially in the winter time.
Yep. I think we can add to your intro a healthy fear of getting into the water.
Yes. I'm pretty sure Steven knew that was without saying.
Yeah. Well, if you went through and referenced all the franchises that John Williams has written music for, we'd probably still be here listening to his speech.
Yes, exactly.
That was pretty much
a podcast.
Yep.
Because I can kind of remember I had to take a music appreciation class in college, and John Williams got brought up, and I raised my hand. He's like, "Okay, give me another. I'm just like,
yes.
I had me in like 6 or 7. He's like, "Okay, you're good. You know your stuff."
Yep.
Well, we'll get to that. Not put the cart before the horse.
True.
In this case, the tauntaun in front of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Or in front of the Wampa, depending on which scene you want to use.
Yeah. Let's not put the speeder bike in front of the Ewok.
Yeah.
Or the Jeep in front of the T-Rex.
Yes.
That too. Yeah.
Or the cape in front of the guy from Krypton. We can keep going. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, we don't really have any news after like no news, light news to a bunch of news. We're back to no news, at least at the moment. So I guess considering the news last week, that's a good thing.
Nothing majorly tomorrow.
Other than there is going to be a new Who marathon on BBC over Christmas. So if you've got the BBC and you just want to have the TV on, background noise, they're gonna do everything starting with the Ninth Doctor going forward. So leading up to
kind of been becoming a tradition with them, because it seems like they do that. I seem to remember they do that almost every year. So.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. It's like, because they were doing it last year, because I remember when I was at the hotel for PopCon Fort Wayne, and I kept bouncing back and forth between BBC America and HBO, because they were doing a marathon of all the Game of Thrones. So
right, because I think they're leading up to showing the animated version of the Macro of Terror.
Yeah,
I think wasn't your Power of the Daleks. I could be wrong though.
Well, they animated Power of the Daleks because I have that one on my iTunes. But they're doing Macro Terror.
Yeah,
I think. Anyway. So if you don't want to miss it, but you're out doing Christmas things, clear some space off the DVR.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a long one.
Yeah. Or just maybe a good time to ask Santa for that BritBox subscription.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That too. Or those box sets.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, does BritBox do the new ones? I didn't think so.
Because
I don't know.
It might fall under their Macro Terror because it's a
Macro Terror.
it might fall under their domain of Classic Who.
Yeah. New Who is on Amazon.
Right.
But
for the time being until
the
it's
animated.
Yeah. HBO.
Yeah.
That one amuses me, like the whole HBO, whatever that new one is called again.
HBO Max. Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
and it's also like all the Warner Brothers stuff. So it's because Warner Brothers and HBO are under the same umbrella. I guess. So
Doctor Who and Harry Potter are going to be on the same streaming service.
Pretty much. I mean, there was a time like some of my older Doctor Who DVDs have the Warner Brothers logo at the beginning before the BBC one, which is kind of weird when I pull those out and I'm just like, oh right, Warner Brothers was involved in distribution or something.
Probably.
When this one came out, I don't know, but I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I've got this DVD. It's mine.
Yeah.
Can't take it from me, my precious.
You're a Time Lord, hurry.
So there's that.
I guess we can also like for a reminder. I know we mentioned it last week, but The Mandalorian is actually going to be on Wednesday instead of Friday this week.
Yeah. As we're recording this, it's Monday the 16th. The Mandalorian next episode is going to be available on Disney Plus on Wednesday, the day before. People can go see late night screenings of The Rise of Skywalker, like I'm going to.
Yeah. So if you forget and go to watch it on Friday, it's okay. It'll still be there, but just be aware that other people have watched it, and we'll probably be talking about it on social media in some way, shape, or form.
Well, there may or may not be a tie-in with The Rise of Skywalker. That's what everybody's speculating, whether there's a tie-in or if Disney / Lucasfilm is just like, let's not compete.
Let's not compete with ourselves, I guess.
I think it's been confirmed that there's at least like a sneak peek after the episode, so be careful about that.
Okay.
I know how people. I know, kind of
so when the credits start rolling, I should hit stop.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
like read who the cast was, because I like to do that. See, like, oh, that was so and so, and then okay, we're done.
Yep.
I don't need to see all the dub voices.
I do like the paintings of scenes.
The concept art.
Yeah, the concept
yes.
art. Think of the word for a second. I hope they get released somewhere.
Or they'll probably end up doing like a book or something.
Yeah, like one of those coffee table books. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, because that concept art is amazing, and I'm glad they put it in the credits because I'm like, people need to see this stuff. Even if it doesn't look exactly the same as how it showed up.
That's why it's concept art.
Yeah, but it's still, I love it. It's just kind of cool to see their ideas and then compare it to what it was actually realized as.
Yeah.
And they're slowly posting pre-orders for Baby Yoda merchandise.
Yeah, we come back after Christmas and it would be like, okay, who got something Yoda related?
Yeah.
All right, so that's really it for the news. We do have some feedback though from Shalane. So it's our discussion about the Muppets, among other things. So she mentions that Big Bird got his own movie, like feature-length movie, Follow That Bird.
Yes, I remember that one.
I don't know if I've ever seen that, but I know of it.
It's got one of the saddest songs, if it's Follow That Bird. Yeah. It's got one of the saddest songs you have ever seen a Muppet sing.
Oh boy.
I'm including every Muppet ever and every.
I believe it's the scene with him behind bars.
Yes, because he's been captured by the circus or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what did you do to Big Bird? And why did you do it? And I'm coming after you.
He's starting to lose feathers. That's how bad it is.
Yes.
So basically, we have to be like sort of mood to want to watch this movie.
Apparently.
I mean, okay. Overall, it's a cute movie. I mean, it's a Sesame Street movie. It's meant for little kids can watch it. But yeah, that song just about breaks me.
Yeah. That's the only down part of the whole movie. The rest of it's your typical.
Yeah, it's Sesame Street. They have other Sesame Street characters showing up, and I mean it's cute and lighthearted. It's just that one song that I'm just like, please stop.
Mm-hmm.
I need to hug this bird, and we need to run away and get you out of here. Come on.
Yeah.
Yep.
She also said that she took a film class in college, and the professor was a big James Bond fan.
Yeah, she just finished her capstone in her theater. Thing.
Yeah, because I know she's really big into theater and performing arts and stuff. So she's a fan of a lot of things. It's very artsy. So, which she listed off a lot of things that you and your family really like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Marvel, and the Muppets.
Yeah.
So
we are.
According to your sister, though, your brother loves the song "Marley and Marley" from Muppet Christmas.
Yes, that's one. Okay, so my brother is I don't know how to describe him. He's definitely not a geek in any way, shape, or form, but he does love the Marvel movies, and they go out to see them. And just every Christmas since we went and saw the Muppet Christmas Carol all those many years ago, or Marley and Marley, he will walk around the house and sing that song during Christmas, and I'm just like, sure. It's just, I guess you just kind of have to know him. It's hard for me to describe just how kind of a goofball he is.
Yeah.
Even when he's annoying the heck out of me.
As brothers do.
I was going to say that
he's
like...
definitely yeah. You have to understand, he's one boy in the middle of four sisters. It's just he had to come up with some interesting coping mechanisms. We love him for it, but we also give him a hard time.
Yeah. As siblings do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for Shalane for outing your brother for really loving that one song, I guess. I don't know.
I don't think he cares if anyone knows he loves it. He's just kind of he's that sort of personality.
No.
I don't know how he'll feel about us talking about him on the podcast, but it's not like I doubt he listens to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, if I get a phone call from him in the next couple of days chewing me out and Shalane out for talking about him, I'm like, oh, I didn't know you listened.
Like, thanks for listening.
Keep listening. Yeah, keep listening. Maybe you should have told me. Shalane listens and she told me. We talk about it all the time, so there.
Yeah.
That's not my problem. Anyway.
Speaking of songs for movies, although that kind of works, but we're not going to be talking about songs you can sing. Well, I guess you could sing them, but they don't have words.
Well, they tried to put lyrics to the Star Wars theme song.
Yeah.
And
I've seen results. People do the theme from Home Alone and give it lyrics, but it's mostly making fun of the plot of the movie. So
and there's a little choral bit in the Duel of the Fates, but that
those aren't.
You ever had any?
I mean, they're words.
Lyrics.
They're not in English, so you don't know what they're saying. But yeah. So there's also someone who did a parody of the Jurassic Park thing. They put lyrics to it too. So I'll have to put links in the show notes to various parodies of these songs. But anyway, our main topic,
as they were originally composed, they do not have lyrics.
Yes, as far as we know. So our main topic for the podcast this week is we're going to give a little love to the man who's really single-handedly responsible for the soundtrack for throw a dart at someone's movie library and you're bound to hit something that he has done music for. I mean, when I was doing the research for this episode and like listening to different tracks and stuff, and I'm like, I just want to listen to everything that you've ever done, but there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, I several years ago I found it was like, it was a 2-disc set at the library of like John Williams' greatest hits. And I was like looking at the back of it, I'm like, oh, he did that one. Oh, he did that one. Oh, he did that one. Then I'm like, well, duh, of course he did.
Yeah.
There were some obvious ones, and there was ones I remember like, wait, no, that can't be right.
Yeah. Well, until you listen to it, and then you're like, oh yeah, that does sound like him.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll dive into some of the more notable stuff here in a moment. But first, I thought we would do some bio type stuff just for those that don't know, because pretty much the majority of the planet, at least of the people that watch movies, know at least one of his works, but they may not know him. Let's start at the beginning. John Towner Williams was born on the 8th of February, 1932 in Floral Park, New York. His parents, Esther and Johnny, were his father was a jazz drummer and a percussionist who played with a jazz quintet. I can't speak. He says of his parents, my father was a Maine man. Maine as in the state. There's a Rhett and Link song there, Maine Man. They were very close. My mother was from Boston. My father's parents ran a department store in Bangor, Maine, and my mother's father was a cabinet maker. People with those roots are not inclined to be lazy. In 1948, they moved to Los Angeles, where he attended North Hollywood High. Graduated in 1950. He later attended the University of California in Los Angeles and studied privately with the composer I'm going to butcher this. I'm sorry, Mario Castelnuovo Tedesco.
You nailed it.
Who was a well-known composer in his own right, and not only was John one of his pupils, but other pupils of his included Henry Mancini, who is well known for like the Peter Gunn TV series theme, the theme to the Pink Panther, Jerry Goldsmith, who did Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and the Universal logo fanfare. So he is Mario has got quite the pedigree of students. So he also went to Juilliard. John Williams did. So he served in the U.S. Air Force in 1952, where he played for the U.S. Air Force Band and played piano, brass, conducted, and arranged music. Following his service, he moved to New York and entered Juilliard, where he studied piano. And then during that time, he worked as a jazz pianist in many jazz clubs. And then moved back to Los Angeles and began working as a session musician, most notably for Henry Mancini. So he worked with Mancini on the Peter Gunn soundtrack, among other things. So he actually plays the I have it written down. The opening riff of the Peter Gunn theme, the da 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 da.
Cool.
That's John Williams. So.
Nice.
He worked on TV and some actual like pop music albums in the 50s and 60s. And during that time, he was actually known and credited as Johnny Williams until eventually he changed it to John Williams because apparently there was an actor with the same name. He worked when he got to eventually working in film as a composer and an orchestrator. He worked with other composers like Bernard Herrmann, who did a lot of the Hitchcock films, and Alfred Newman. So the Venn diagram of the 50s and 60s going into the 70s, there's a lot of overlap of, if you listened to or watch movies of that era on TV, you would hear a lot of his contemporaries of that era. So he worked on, as far as TV, he worked on the pilot episode of Gilligan's Island.
It's cool. I was just scrolling through and I saw that. Well, even Lost in Space, Land of the Giants. My goodness.
Yep. He got around quite a bit before he really struck it big.
Mm-hmm.
In 1958, he did his first film, which was for a B movie called Daddy-O. But he did not get credited for that. His first on-screen credit came 2 years later in Because They're Young. And then it kind of started to snowball from there. So he started to get more and more work. He got his first Academy Award nomination in 1967 for Valley of the Dolls, and then nominated again in 1969 for Goodbye, Mr. Chips. He won his first Academy Award for the 1971 film adaptation of Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, cool.
It was actually like the first movie I was the one I was surprised about. That wait, John Williams did the music with that.
Well, I mean, it was adapted, so yeah, it was an Academy Award for adaptation and original score. So, so it's not like best original. So he did get a nomination for Best Original Dramatic Score in 1972. Actually, a couple. It was nominated for the Robert Altman film Images and nominated for the Poseidon Adventure.
Cool.
And nominated for Best Original or Best Scoring Original Song Score and Adaptation. Obviously, they've changed the titles of some of these categories since then. For the Disney, I'm assuming that's the Disney film Tom Sawyer, because the Sherman Brothers shared that nomination with them. So, and then in
real quick, I clicked on the Tom Sawyer. The production was Reader's Digest.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
I didn't even know they produced movies. I just knew them for the magazine.
Okay. I did not know that. I saw the Sherman Brothers and just assumed that it was Disney, but no, apparently it was Frank Capra Jr. Alrighty then. So obviously once the ball got rolling, he started picking up steam, but really for, I think, most of us, the ground zero, as it were, the epicenter of everything is in 1973 when he teamed up with Steven Spielberg for the first time for Spielberg's film The Sugarland Express. which is a crime drama film, which was actually Spielberg's theatrical feature directorial debut. It's a Goldie Hawn film about a husband and wife trying to outrun the law. Based on a real life incident, apparently.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it, and I never knew what it was about.
Yeah. No. He continued to. The 70s were an interesting time for film because like disaster movies were a big thing for a while. So he did things like the Poseidon Adventure, as we mentioned, and Earthquake, and the Towering Inferno. And then in 1975, he did Jaws. And everybody was scared to get in the water. Also that year he did his one and only Hitchcock film, which was the Family Plot, which I think when you think of Hitchcock, that's not one that probably comes to mind right away. And apparently John Williams didn't really like the film, at least the idea of the film, but he wanted to work with Alfred Hitchcock, which can you blame him? So he went ahead and did it, and really Hitchcock's direction to him as far as the music was, remember, murder can be fun. And then not long after that, in 1977, this little film came out. You may have heard of it, called Star Wars.
I might have seen that at least maybe one time when I was young. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No. We have actually Steven Spielberg to thank for this collaboration, because it was actually Spielberg that recommended Williams to George Lucas for Star Wars, because the Williams had kind of established himself as being able to write in a certain way, and so when Spielberg found out George Lucas was doing this movie, he was like, you need to work with this guy John Williams for your music, and I think it worked out well. So
yeah, a little maybe.
I actually have a quote from George Lucas. Actually, it's from the same event that I used the Spielberg quote. It's from the 44th annual. I don't know if they're annual, but the 44th AFI Lifetime Achievement Award presentation ceremony. They were given the award to John Williams that year. Spielberg had received it in previous years, and so George Lucas, and of course they worked together. So that's who you're going to have talk at this sort of thing. So at that same event, George Lucas says of John, said, "You made my life so easy. I had so many ideas for other movies, but I never got to them because you were ensured that Star Wars would endure forever. And then you did it again with Raiders of the Lost Ark. Steve and I sat on the beach to talk about the story for Indy, and instantly we both said at the same time, John has to write the music. Steve said, great, that's the most important part. Let's go have lunch and write the story later." Yeah. Oh my goodness. And then, I mean, it's gone on from there, with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Superman, the Richard Donner Superman. Obviously he's done a lot more Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, again, Hoth outside, Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1981, E.T., more Indiana Jones, The Witches of Eastwick, Born on the 4th of July, which is an Oliver Stone film, Home Alone, which that was directed by Christopher Columbus, which that'll come back around. Hook, which we all know and love. Jurassic Park, of course. Let's see. Oh my goodness, we could just rattle off the entire list, and that would just be so. Schindler's List, which is not necessarily the big epic that we tend to equate with John Williams, but it's a very, I mean, obviously it's a very moving film too, but it does kind of have at least that main theme, that violin is very recognizable if you've seen the movie. It's one of those that kind of tickles in the back of your brain, I know this song. The music from Schindler's List. Saving Private Ryan. AI, Artificial Intelligence. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which again circles back to Christopher Columbus. So as of now, John Williams has got his fingers in almost every Star Wars movie except for Rogue One. He did not do the score for Solo, but he did do a song called "The Adventures of Han," which is part of the larger film score. And then he has done the score for The Rise of Skywalker, which releases this week, as we mentioned, which is part of the reason why we're doing this, doing this particular topic. One, just because, obviously John Williams, wax poetic, but he also has stated that as of The Rise of Skywalker, he's retiring from doing the Star Wars movies. He's not retiring from doing film altogether, but he is now no longer scoring the Star Wars movies going forward. So we thought it would be kind of appropriate to talk about him going into what is presumably his last Star Wars movie. But again, he's not retiring completely because he is set to do the score for the next Indiana Jones movie, which is due out in 2021, which will be his 29th collaboration with Steven Spielberg. He has scored every Steven Spielberg film except for like 3 or 4, which is crazy. But hey, when you got a good thing going.
I was gonna say, I know directors and composers have favorite composers they use a lot, but dang.
Yeah.
Well, if you here's kind of the thing is with especially with Spielberg movies. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. Sorry about that. There's this, with whether it's E.T. or Indiana Jones or Jurassic Park or whatever, there's always this sort of wonder, fantastical element to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And John Williams, his music does that. I mean, it even does it in Harry Potter, which is not a Spielberg thing.
No, but it's another work with Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
So
another work with Christopher Columbus. Yeah. And then, with Star Wars, it's always, that's why, when I said, when I found that 2-disc set of it's the best of John Williams, and I'm looking through all the scores that are on there and the movies that they're from, and I'm like, he did Saving Private Ryan. He did, I guess I'd known that he'd done music for the Olympics, or and all these other things, but Schindler's List,
several
and I was
times.
I didn't really, and I'm just like, I wouldn't have put him with those kinds of movies, or even Jaws, because, and it's just because those to me don't really evoke. Of course, at the time I was like, oh yeah, Spielberg did Jaws, yeah. But I'm just I don't know. It's just sort of a magical quality to his music, and Spielberg generally has a magical quality to his movies, or the ones that I from. So it's just oh yeah, it makes sense. Same with Star Wars, and just sort of in a different way, but it's there. So it would make sense that certain directors would go back to certain composers, or what have you, other things as well.
Yeah. Well, and part of that, and a good chunk of that, and I am not saying any of this as any sort of authority on composition or music theory or anything like that. Everything that I know, I've learned from the internet. So I took some classes in college, but that was a long time ago. I've forgotten pretty much everything as far as music for film and that sort of thing. So
you were fulfilling a credit.
Exactly. Yeah. So all the notes that I have, I got from other smarter people telling me things on YouTube. And I can put links to videos that I watched in the show notes so people can hear more accredited people say these things. But the biggest thing what makes Williams, I don't know if this is intentional, you'd have to, I don't know the first thing about scoring. I can't even read music. So again, I'm speaking completely as internet educated. But what makes the idea, at least what people think why John Williams scores in particular are just so catchy and memorable and stick with you long after the fact, and you can hear them years later and be like, oh, that's Home Alone or whatever, and is because he writes and it's I'm sure some of this is influence based on what kind of music he likes to listen to. Apparently he does not like listening to popular music. Even his, even other film scores, he tends to like, if he's going to listen to music, it's classical. But he said even then that he doesn't necessarily like to listen to, classical composers that have been dead for 400 years because he'll still hear something and be like, oh, I wish I could write something as good as that. So, but it's his style of writing, for those music theory nuts out there. Hopefully I'm doing this justice again, internet, is best described as a form of neo-romanticism, which that refers to music from 1850 onwards, and refers to the work of composers like Richard Wagner. It's used to acknowledge the fact that music of the second half of the 19th century remained in a romantic mode in an unromantic age, dominated by positivism, when literature and painting had moved onto realism and impressionism, which is a lot of big words.
I was gonna say, I remember hearing those words when my art classes and school, but I don't remember what they mean.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea is, instead of it being, the idea is that John Williams tends to write his music using very large scale orchestral music. And, at the end of the day, it really comes down to what does the director want. Of course, but obviously, if he's worked with a director often enough, he knows, Spielberg can go to John and say, I want this. And John can be like, okay, because they work together often enough that they understand each other, I'm sure. But he writes in very similar ways for a lot of his scores as Wagner or Tchaikovsky, who use leitmotifs. Which are short, usually constantly recurring musical phrases associated with a particular person, place, or idea. So what most people tend to call the force theme is one of those. Or the Imperial March whenever we see Darth Vader, that sort of thing. Because he uses that leitmotif idea and repeats them often enough, but not in a copy and paste kind of way. So like if you listen to like the Indiana Jones theme, you will hear essentially the same block of notes and a similar tone, but each time it's repeated, or not each time it's repeated, but it gets repeated, but slightly changed so that you're not just getting copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. It's telling a story, but keeping the overall idea of that story within the same, like, concise idea, I guess. Again, I'm not trained in this, so I'm trying to spit this out with a lot of education here. So, like the Force theme, as I mentioned, again, a video I will link in the show notes. Someone said, that they looked at from the very first time we hear that theme. Which I believe is when we first meet Luke, and he is standing outside the home as the twin suns are in the sky. That's one of the first times we hear that theme, which again people call the Force theme. But throughout the Star Wars film series, it appears at least 20 times. Just that one theme, in some form or fashion. It may not be exactly the same. They may change the tone. Or maybe the speed of it or something, but it's still that same theme. So being able to write those distinct melodic chunks that people either consciously or probably a lot of times subconsciously connecting with a certain thing, like the Jaws theme. It's like you just need to hear da da. Da-da. And most people are going to think shark,
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
You just need to hear those beginning notes of the Imperial March, and you're like, oh no, I'm in trouble. Darth Vader's coming. Or the theme for that sweeping theme from E.T. when the bikes take off, and you hear that, and you just see in your mind, you just see those bikes silhouetted across the moon.
Yep.
So he just has a way of being able to write those pieces of music in a way that just it gets into your brain and kind of sticks there, and you don't hate him for it. Unlike some like pop music where they repeat themselves literally, they will repeat like the same line and the same notes over and over, and you're like, okay, shut up, I get it. That's my internet educated notes on why John Williams' scores are really awesome, and they stick with you.
YouTube is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
It is.
For the most part.
It very much is. So, but I mean, is there, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, for me, it probably was Star Wars is the first Williams score that I probably ever heard. That or Superman. Not entirely sure. I'd flip a coin, and it could probably be 50-50 on either one of those, because heaven knows I did not see Jaws as a child. So what about you guys?
I honestly don't know what my first one is, because like I remember seeing like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Hook, all like around a similar time. Mm-hmm. So it was probably one of those, maybe E.T. I'm just.
I want to say mine was E.T., but at the same time, E.T. scared the crap out of me. Yeah. When I was like 4, and my aunt brought it over to our house to watch, and I like ran up the stairs when E.T. popped out of the cornfield, and the whole everything. I hate E.T. Although I have a stuffed E.T. toy that I love, so make of that what you will. Sorry, Alex is here. But anyway, yeah, mine was probably E.T., honestly.
I think for me, mine was a cross between Star Wars, Indiana Jones, E.T., and maybe a little brief of Jaws, but mainly Star Wars.
Yeah, he's written so many amazing scores, but something about Star Wars, even though that he's done so many other things that are also touchstones culturally. I mean, if you want to talk about something like, the AFI list, the top 100 movies of all time, both Star Wars and Indiana Jones are on there. Mm-hmm. They're the first films of each of those franchises, so you've got 2 John Williams on there. I know Schindler's List is also on the list, so he's got at least 3 that are considered fantastic movies and some of the greatest of all time. But there's just something about that Star Wars score, and it's cultural. Recognize that it's in some cases it's considered like one of the most culturally like significant like film scores of all time, and it's obviously that start. Just thinking about it now, going into the movie, later this week, Thursday night, settling in the movie theater, getting through all the previews, and getting that black screen that says "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away," and just getting that, mm-hmm. that first note, which apparently, for anyone that actually knows how to read and or play music, that very first note of the Star Wars that we all equate with the beginning of the movies is a high C. And in the very first Star Wars film, so the very first time that they did it for the first film, the trumpet player that plays that, he had just been accepted into the London Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, wow.
Right before they recorded the score for Star Wars. So that was the first thing he got to play.
How cool.
That's something to put on your resume.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why should we hire you for this? Well, I played that very first note in Star Wars. Okay.
Yeah.
And guess what? That was my first job.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this, and of course he's received Academy Award nominations for Star Wars, as you should. He is the single most, not winning or nominated. I'm gonna get my trivia right here. He has nominations. So he has won 24 Grammys, 7 BAFTAs, 5 Oscars, 4 Golden Globes. He has 51 Academy Award nominations, which makes him the most nominated living individual. He's second most nominated to Walt Disney. Walt Disney has the most nominations of anybody.
Wow.
Yes. In 2005, the AFI, the American Film Institute, selected the score for Star Wars as the greatest American film score of all time. And the Library of Congress has entered the soundtrack into the National Recording Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Mm-hmm.
So there.
I'm thinking later on down the road, a few more of the soundtracks that he's done are going to be added to the.
Oh, I'm
list.
sure.
Probably.
I am sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's kind of interesting, with because you said he only did the first 3 Harry Potter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if you go and watch those later ones, all of the composers who followed him up, you can hear John Williams' influence, I guess. I mean, because they kind of wanted to sound like the same thing throughout all of that, and even with Mandalorian, where it's a totally different composer, totally different score, but yet, like when I'm listening to the music there, and it should be a different different composer, different style of music, just because it's a different sort of story, even if it is still in the Star Wars universe. You can still hear those little bits of little John Williams cues going off in there. So it's not like, oh, he's not doing Star Wars anymore. They're still being influenced by him.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's the thing, for to have someone like him be so prolific, that as more generations of composers come along and start asserting themselves as, the next generation, that you will get that influence, which, there's only whether you're talking film music or popular music or really any kind of music. Of course, at the end of the day, even someone like me who can't read sheet music to save their life knows that there's only so many notes and so many different ways you could arrange those notes. So you're gonna get a little overlap, but it's the people that find the ways to take those combinations and do something different with them, whether it's tempo or pitch or whatever, or putting different chords together in different ways, that we still get as much as John has done. Just look at his body of work and listen to go on YouTube, just put in best of John Williams, and you will get all sorts of playlists and mashes that or videos that people have put together, and it's all, a lot of it just, it screams John Williams. He's just got this feel to his music, yet each film is distinctly different. Like Indiana Jones is obviously definitely different than Jaws, which is definitely different than Home Alone.
Yep.
Yet they're all from the same guy, and they still feel like him.
Right.
And I think that's what filmmakers now and film composers now are realizing, is you can be influenced by composers like John Williams, but you can make those leitmotifs or whatever. And some have done that. I mean, you see that in other film franchises. Obviously, things like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which you would think that would be a John Williams score, but it's not.
Right.
It is the London Philharmonic Orchestra, among other things, but that's Howard Shore, who is actually not a whole lot younger than John Williams. They're only like a decade or so apart in age, but he's got his own feel that you can hear that, and like I think Brittany mentioned, I don't know if we were talking at some point, because like obviously Spielberg, Williams, that's a combination that we've come to know,
Right.
But then you've got something like Tim Burton and Danny Elfman. Is another combination that and Danny Elfman has his own distinct feel for his scores. Obviously having leitmotifs isn't necessarily appropriate for every film out there, but for the type of movies that at least John Williams does, it's very appropriate a good chunk of the time. Having different scores for specific characters or locations. So I just kind of want to listen to everything.
I know.
Yeah,
I
like,
don't want to talk about it. I want to listen to it. So.
It's kind of hard to. It's kind of hard to talk about a music or any kind of musician, whether it's a score composer or a band or something else, because then you're all like, you just want to listen to the music. It's like, the history behind it, the history or the the story behind it or whatever, or music theory is just kind of like, okay, that's great. I don't know how music works. I just know what I like, and I like to so I'm like, let's just pull up some soundtracks and just go nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then YouTube yells at us for copyright.
Well, okay, yeah. So since we can't put it in our podcast because of YouTube,
well, I will.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Okay,
I have been
here.
doing that for certain episodes, and I hopefully people that listen have noticed it, and they are enjoying the fact that I'm if the topic works, that I have been putting clips of stuff when appropriate. But yeah, YouTube does be like, oh, copyright. And then we're not making money off of it anyway.
Yeah.
So
and then you can go on YouTube and look up, type in band, type in song, and listen to a whole video with with all that. So it's like, whatever. Just stuff it. But anyway, so I will say this though, because if I'm humming, there are some of his scores, and I can point to the main title of Superman and the main title of Indiana Jones. Then I start humming one, I inevitably go into the other.
I'm
I'm like, and it's always those two, and I'm just like, no, wait. It's like if I'm doing now I'm trying to do it like da, 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 da. No, that's Indiana Jones. How do I do Superman again? I can't remember. And I love.
That's because they both start with like brass So
yeah.
I
it's
always
the
equate
same.
a lot of brass to John Williams.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes he kind of has that a little bit of the same opening, but with a twist. And it's just like, okay, which one am I? Oh yeah, okay, it's this one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or it'll turn, and then I'll go into the other one. I'm like, crap, I'm mixing my John Williams again. Dang it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And he can get away with doing that because he's the one that wrote it originally. So
Yeah, really.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
that is true.
I mean, if you can't rip off yourself, who can?
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
It doesn't help me when I'm cleaning around the house and I start humming something and I'm like, wait a minute, what? I gotta pull it up on my phone again. which at least now I could do. 10 years ago or so, I'd have been like,
Yeah.
Which one is this again?
That's when you're like, okay, let me find the VHS copy of this movie and pop it in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Back to the boombox. So which CD do I need to put in now?
Which track is it? No.
Yeah. Which side of the cassette tape is it on?
What times we are living in.
Yes. Yeah.
Now you can have like a whole playlist right on your phone of every song.
Yep.
Just gotta scroll through, shuffle on through.
Yep.
It's like, answer all my questions for me.
Yeah. Oh. So now, like I said, Williams is going to be retire from the Star Wars franchise, but not retiring from composing altogether. He does do some concerts. He did a short touring run a couple of years ago. He came to Indianapolis. We tried to get tickets to sell that very, very, very quickly.
Not surprising at all.
Yeah.
That'll happen.
Yeah. So if you're in the area in Massachusetts, he does occasionally do conducting with the Boston Pops and the Boston Symphony Orchestra in Tanglewood, where that's their summer home essentially for the Boston Symphony, and he will conduct there. He did make the surprise appearance at Star Wars Celebration 2 years ago, thereabouts. So, it was whatever the Star Wars Celebration after Carrie Fisher died. He did a tribute to Carrie. So he's still out and about, even at 87 years old, doing his thing. And yes, Star Wars Celebration 2017. Did a concert with the Orlando Philharmonic, presenting with Princess Leia's theme as a tribute to Carrie Fisher. Apparently, some of his material is now gone, though, because in 2008 there was a fire at Universal.
Oh, right. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. So there were, among several hundred artists, lost stuff because it destroyed a lot of audio master tapes.
Ew.
Yep.
Well, hold on to your soundtracks, I guess.
Yeah, this is as we said last week. Hold on to your physical media, people, and back things up.
Yes, because who knows? They may, it may just be gone. Won't ever get to be distributed again because I don't know how this all works with the master tapes and the other stuff and sound mixing and design, and I don't know. There are people who are very nerdy about how their music and sound quality is when they buy music. I'm just like, I'll just whatever CD or download is on iTunes, I'll just take it. But yeah, whew, that's a blow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh,
Hopefully they have another backup somewhere. I don't know. It seems like they would for stuff like that.
I'm sure I would like to think that like his written has been scanned and archived somewhere. So even if you don't have like the master recordings of when it was recorded, that the written score is still archived somewhere.
Yeah,
not that I would be able to do anything with it, but
well, somebody will be able to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I'm with you, Rachel. I'm just like, I don't know. It's music. It's I push play and it comes out of the speakers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like it.
Yes. Don't ask me to play it for you.
Yeah.
I'm beyond pushing play on the thing. But yeah. But no, it's just
He's just one of those, like you guys were saying, it's like you look at the list or, look at the back of a CD, it's like the best of John Williams and you realize, oh, he did that. He did that. He did that. He did that. Like, yes, he has gotten around. And as far as, popular culture, he is the literal soundtrack to generations of film goers. So, and I very much look forward to hearing what comes out of the speakers for Rise of Skywalker. So,
yep.
Obviously you will hear some stuff we've heard before. We've got everybody's gonna lose their mind and scream and clap when we get that opening Star Wars, that high C trumpet. And now we've got things like Rey's theme, which he developed for The Force Awakens and has been used for Daisy Ridley's character since. Plus whatever new things he's written for Episode 9. So,
is the soundtrack already out?
No,
not yet.
No, they learned after Episode 1 not to release the soundtrack until the movie's out. So
yeah. You checked the movies that come out before, but like I wasn't gonna look for it because like I am rare, like
yeah. Which again, what John Williams was thinking, naming a track that is a very obvious spoiler, I don't know, but
yeah, just a Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, like what happened with Phantom Menace. Of course, they released the novelization before the movie because I read the novelization before I saw the movie.
Yeah,
but that's a different rant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoilers were not a huge thing, really, in 99.
Yeah.
Or 97.
Yeah.
97. No, 99.
Yeah.
When did Fangirls
99.
come?
It
I
was
was like,
99.
wait, that was
The
99.
90s.
The 90s, the late 90s.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's true. And again, the composer is following the lead of the director, so maybe it was George Lucas's idea to name it that. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Steven
Could
Spielberg's in the corner, like, that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
It's all right. Now we all
Yoda's in the corner going.
Wise idea this is not.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, but, yeah. Now I want to go listen to Star Wars.
Same here.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Luckily, I have all the soundtracks.
Or if you can't, if you don't have them, go to the library.
Yes.
Or YouTube.
Or YouTube. Because
Actually-
somebody's posted it and isn't getting flagged for it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's educational.
Mhm.
I'm doing air quotes you can't see.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that I think about it, I think John Williams was the first soundtrack composer I ever had a CD of. Because I got the Harry Potter soundtrack CD for Christmas the year it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the first thing I've ever had that was that got me into wanting to listen to the soundtracks. So
Yeah, I think probably same with me. I probably, because I do remember having the Harry Potter soundtrack, and I listened to that over and over in my car, and I was in high school, and people were asking, they talk about their favorite bands or what are you listening to, and they're all talking about different music that's on the radio. I'm like, I'm listening to the Harry Potter soundtrack, and I get looks like, what? Or you get lectures from like church teachers and stuff, like, make sure you're listening to good music that doesn't have naughty lyrics, and I'm like, my music I'm listening to doesn't have any lyrics.
We're good there.
It's like, I got that covered.
No problem.
Yep. I listen to movie soundtracks. Well, in one movie soundtrack, but it's a movie soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was a good one, and I probably still have it somewhere. But anyway, so John Williams, may he continue on for a very long time, please, because he does good. He's good. He's kind of good at this writing music thing.
Mm-hmm. He's okay.
He's all right.
Somewhere Steven Spielberg's going, fine, I'll take him if you don't want him.
They usually do. But yes, so.
What is it? Our turn to get him to do some music for us?
Yeah, really.
Anyway.
I could be having a Five-ish Fangirls theme by John Williams.
Yeah, if he is ever at a convention, instead of getting a bumper, like, could you just write a little theme for us real quick and record it?
Just hum a little something.
Yep.
Yeah. So if any of our listeners want to chime in about their favorite John Williams score or movie or whatever song, or what you remember your first John Williams movie was, email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com, and you can also visit us at our website, which is thefiveishfangirls.com, and you can find links to all of our social media stuff mostly Facebook, because that's where we post a lot and have a lot of interaction. We also have Instagram and YouTube, as we mentioned, and hopefully this episode will be there, whether or not there's music with it. Who knows? And we also have ways to support the show. And we have our Patreon. We have our Redbubble shop. We have our Amazon store, which, about a week and a half until Christmas. So if you're still trying to get in with those Prime deals, go through our Amazon store, and we get a little referral bonus, which helps run this podcast and keeping it on the internet. And so thank you all for supporting us, whether it's sending a little bit of your extra cash or leaving us a comment or feedback. We really appreciate it, and we cannot thank you guys enough for all the support that you do show us. So thank you, and we love you. And depending on where you are in the world, hopefully you're staying out from under all that snow.
Yes.
Be safe out there, people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I can hear it coming down as we speak.
If it wasn't pitch black outside, I could see it.
Same. Well, yeah.
I think we're getting a reprieve this week, but I know it's coming back.
A quick heads up for our listeners, just so you know, because Christmas is next week and because the way the calendar fell, it's in the smack dab of the middle of the week. We are going to take next week off so that people can travel and spend time with their families, just because, not everybody gets time off, even with the holiday. And again, with Christmas being on a Wednesday, I'm sure people are like, okay, how are we going to figure this out with everybody's schedules? So we're just going to take next week off so that everybody can get to where they're going, spend time with family, hopefully get lots of presents, eat a lot of food, watch the Disney Christmas parade Christmas morning if you like, I guess, if that's your jam.
Marathon a bunch of movies, whatever it is you do.
Yeah, go see The Rise of Skywalker a bajillion times. I still need to. It's really not Christmas because Hans Gruber is not falling off Nakatomi Plaza.
That's for Christmas Eve.
Yeah. I'm going to have a double header Christmas Eve. Die Hard and Muppet Christmas Carol.
There you go.
That's quite the mix, and I like it.
Yeah. So we will be back after Christmas. We will be back before the year is out, talking Rise of Skywalker. So you've got time if you cannot get to the movie theater right away, again, because of travel and all that fun stuff. Just looking at the calendar, and I'm like, it's not like we can do anything about it, but for some reason it just strikes me as very odd to have Christmas on a Wednesday. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of one of those things that, like, it feels like a holiday should be closer to a weekend, but Wednesday it's like, which weekend do you take off? Well, just take the week off. Forget it.
Yeah.
I know, but yeah, it's like I was at work trying to figure out, because I have to be cognizant of like delivery schedules at the library and stuff like that with what I do, and I'm just like, okay, how am I going to make this work? What do I need to send out and when? And because it's going to be closed, and so
it's like
everybody gets their stuff, and I'm like,
it's like postal service is going to be closed, banks are going to be closed. So it's like. Yeah, it does kind of throw a wrench into the
I know, it's like, why can't it be on a Friday? That would make things so much easier. But anyway, no, we will have Christmas no matter what.
Yes.
So I guess everyone have a Merry Christmas, because we probably won't talk to you till after that. Yeah.
Yep.
Will we have a thing going out or not?
To be determined.
To be determined. Okay, so
we've got some audio from stuff that has not been released. We'll see how crazy my travel gets. Not entirely sure what the family schedule is yet. So if I have the time, I may put it out there so you have something to download. If not, feel free to just, go back and listen to something else, I guess.
Listen to our review of Muppet Christmas Carol. That'll get you in the spirit.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's your festive offering from us.
Or if you want to prep, for Rise of Skywalker, for whatever reason you don't get to see it opening weekend, you can go back and listen to our reviews of The Force Awakens, Rogue One.
Right, yeah.
The Last Jedi.
The 40th anniversary of the first Star Wars movie. We got you covered.
We've talked Star Wars in the past, so
Just a little
bit.
It comes up every now and then. So.
Oh yeah.
All right. So with that, I guess we shall sign off for this week.
This is Brittany and Bethlehem saying goodnight.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. I will leave you all with this quote from the man himself in referring to when he did the score for Schindler's List with Steven Spielberg. He, after Spielberg told him about the film, he said, "Steven, this is a great film, and you really need a better composer than I am for this film." To which Spielberg replied, "I know, but they're all dead."
You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at thefivishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/5ishfangirlspodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official Five-ish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/5ishfangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/5ishfangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the squee be with you.